Vasudeva. Hari Om. Sem no mitrasya varunaha sem no bhavatvaryama sem na indro brahaspatihi sem no vishnururkramaha namo brahmane namaste vayo tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi tvameva pratyaksham brahma vadishyami ritam vadishyami satyam vadishyami tanmamavatu tadvaktaramavatu avatu mam avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Pratyapāścātya deśānām samanvaya vidhāyakam shantam saumya gunopetam Krishnam vande jagadgurum. Om asmadgurubhyo namaha. Welcome to all our brothers and sisters. So far, we have studied the 17th aphorism. So in the 17th aphorism, it was explained about the samprajñāta type of vairagya. Samprajñāta means all conscious state. So we have studied in the 17th aphorism the non-attachment or vairagya in the all conscious state. That we have studied with many examples of it, this all conscious state. Actually, this samprajñāta or the all conscious state of non-attachment, it cannot be considered as the real non-attachment. Non-attachment is vairagya. So the real vairagya is not. So he has explained this samprajñāta or the all conscious state of vairagya. He explained this because unless we know that, we cannot really know or experience the real vairagya, which is going to be explained in the next aphorism. So all conscious Vairagya with all conscious state. That was what we have studied in 17th aphorism. So in all conscious state, when everything in this world is observed through senses and mind, so it gives an approach to everything. With the right measures, when the right measure is applied, everything presents itself in the light of its right logic. So all conscious means we are conscious through the logic and in the enjoyment to the enjoyment of the senses and mind. So a right use of all the measures and all implements. So this, to enjoy this happiness, one should be aware of his own presence in everything. So that is what we have studied last week about samprajñāta type of vairagya. So all conscious existence. So we have compared it with a person who is expected to be sleeping, but he is aware that he is sleeping. If a person is aware that he is sleeping, that means he is not sleeping. So if non-attachment or vairagya also, if we are constantly aware that we are in vairagya, then it is not real vairagya. That is what for this there is to discriminate between this, because the one who remembers how much vairagya he has attained and who remembers that I am practicing vairagya, I have attained so much of vairagya, then that cannot be the true vairagya. That is why we have taken the example of a person who says, all the night I have been sleeping. I have tested myself. I have seen the time at 12 o'clock, I was sleeping. Again at 2 o'clock I watched myself whether I am sleeping or not. So I am sleeping. At 4, so for every 2 hours, he is watching himself whether he is sleeping or not. So he says, I am watching my sleeping. That means he is not sleeping. That is why we have taken that example for this. So all the time, if a person says he is in vairagya, that means he is not in vairagya. If he is really in vairagya, all these things will dissolve. But all this logic and all these things. So, the person who always remembers his vairagya it is not real vairagya. So when vairagya is a conscious process, then it is not really vairagya or non-attachment. It should not be a conscious process. Then what? Then is it that it should be an unconscious process? Unconscious process also is not, if it is unconscious, also then it is not vairagya. So, for this, Then if it is not, if it is, should not be conscious, it should not be unconscious, then is it subconscious? Is it a subconscious process? Vairagya. Yes, by the modern psychologist, it is called subconscious, but actually it is not subconscious, it is supraconscious. What is supraconscious is not known to modern psychology. Modern psychology only explains you conscious, unconscious, subconscious levels. But the real Vairagya is neither conscious nor unconscious, but supraconscious. To realize this difference, to know this clearly, we must have another example. What is that example? You see, 3 persons have attended a music concert. There is a wonderful music concert. Very famous musician who can improvise the music. So, 3 persons who are friends, together they have attended the music concert. So the first fellow, at the end of the concert, if you ask him, how was the concert? He says, of course the concert is good. I listen how he have improvised and all this. And also I see his mannerisms of his face. And I see his marks on the face, his beauty spots on the face. Oh, he is, of course, but so how he has improvised and how it should be, all these things he will explain. And he says, yes, I have watched constantly the music concert. Constantly I was listening to the music concert. I was listening to the fellow, how he is moving his hands, how he is smiling, how he is moving his head, all these things. So this is the experience of the first fellow who has attended the musical concert. So this is all conscious state. So all the time he is there in the hall. So he is also able to observe what all there in the hall, everything in the hall. He is able to observe the musician, and he is able to observe the assistants. So all everything. He says, oh, I could observe everything, wonderful. But that means that he is not dissolved. He is not completely in the experience of music. He has seen, he has listened to the musician, the sound and all these things. So, this samprajnata vairagya, that means all conscious state of vairagya, which is explained in the 17th aphorism, this is exactly like this. So when a fellow is conscious of his vairagya, it is just like that, this first person. So for him everything is existing. The hall is existing, the stage is existing, the mic is existing, the instrument is existing, the fellow who is playing music is existing, features of his face are existing, and how many lights are there are existing, everything is existing. So he has attended the concert. So this samprajnata vairagya, the all-conscious state of non-attachment, is exactly like this. This is an example for that. So such a fellow all the time he is conscious of his non-attachment. Oh, yes, I am not attached to any of these. Of course, these are all. He explains all these things. So therefore, all conscious state of Vairagya is not real Vairagya. That is why Patanjali has first explained what is Sampragnata, all conscious state of Vairagya, with logic and all these things. So now you can ask that in this example, what is the second fellow? What is the experience of second fellow who has attended this concert? For the second fellow, nothing is existing. He is completely, he is not, everything is gone, he is not, nothing is existing. What about the third fellow? For the third fellow also, nothing is existing. He is completely, he is also dissolved. Very good. So then, what is the difference between the second and third fellow? So is it the same? For the second fellow also, musician is not existing, a sound is not existing, he is not aware of anything around him, the second fellow. Third fellow also is not aware of anything. Within a few minutes after starting the music, all the cognizance of all these things is gone. Even the musician with all his beauty spots and all his mannerisms, nothing is existing. Then what is the difference between the second fellow and third fellow? Is it exactly the same experience? The only difference is the second fellow, within just a few minutes after the music started, he just slipped into sleep. He was leaning to the wall or his chair and closed his eyes and gone, slipped into the sleep. After the fellow stopped the music, then he came to his consciousness. So all this time he was in sleep. That means he is totally unconscious. The first fellow is all conscious. So he is listening to the music, he is seeing everything around him, he is seeing the musician with all his mannerisms, with all his spots on his face, everything, what color of shirt he is wearing, everything. He is conscious of everything. That is the first fellow. So the first Vairagya is like that. All conscious state of Vairagya. Second is unconscious state. So it is not Vairagya also. The first example also, all conscious state of Vairagya is not real Vairagya or non-attachment. The second one, there is total absence because he is shut down, his mind and senses are shut down. So nothing is existing because he is sleeping. So that is not Vairagya. Then what about the third one? The third one, he is not sleeping. So in the beginning he is cognizant of everything around him, but slowly everything disappeared from his cognizance. After some time, the hall and his friends, the lights, the instrument, all these has disappeared. For some time the musician was appearing to him. After some time, face of musician disappeared. Only the playing of the instrument and music and the sound, it was existing. After some time that has also disappeared. What was there existing? Only the experience of music, that's all. He was all the time experiencing the music, but cognizance of all other things are gone. So he was one with the music, he and the music. So is this a subconscious state? No, it is not subconscious, it is supraconscious state. So the non-attachment or vairagya of the third example is of supra-conscious state. So we will more clearly we will go into this. So the third fellow has attended. The second fellow, did he attend the concert? No, he has not attended because he slept. For him nothing is existing. But the third fellow, has he attended the concert? Was he able to listen to the sound? All these things. So the third fellow is completely, he has attended, but for him he could not remember anything else except the experience. That also, for him everything is just a very transcendental experience, a very sweet experience, that's all. So he could not remember the time, how much time it went on. The second fellow also could not remember because all the time he was sleeping. After everything stopped, then he opened his eyes. So for him also nothing exists, but that is unconscious. But the third fellow, he is not unconscious, but he got dissolved into a higher consciousness where he was in the experience, wonderful experience, transcendental experience of the music. So in the same manner about vairagya also, non-attachment also, the third fellow, the non-attachment in the third fellow is of transcendental type. He does not all the time remember that he is practicing vairagya and all these things. He is attending to his work, but nothing is in his cognizance. So, the third one is supra-conscious and everything is dropped from his cognizance. This is the real vairagya. So, what we can experience by listening to wonderful music, only that experience, all other things will fade away. So that is supra-conscious. So what happens is, there is a triangle. What is this triangle? Everything is explained in terms of triangles in this occult science. So here what is the triangle? So the triangle is the one who is experiencing happiness, and the object of happiness is the music played by the musician, and then the process of listening is the third. So this is the triangle. So one who is producing music wonderfully, he is the object of listening. So the one who is listening to that, so this is two. And third one is the process of listening. And in this third type of experience, which is supraconscious, what happens is, all these three sides of the triangle get dissolved into one. There is no one the one who is producing the music also is not there, dissolved. The one who is listening to the music also is dissolved. And the process of listening also is not there, dissolved. Everything is dissolved. There is only music, only one thing. This is what is called in Sanskrit Triputa Bhedana. That means breaking the triangle or dissolving the triangle. This is the technical term in the science of yoga and also in the science of Tantra. Because in Tantra, everything is explained in terms of triangles. So the three sides of triangles, this got dissolved. Triputa Bhedana means breaking or dissolving of the three sides of the triangles into only one experience. That is. Then there is only experience, that's all. The one who is experience is not there, the experience only is there. So, Samprajnata, or what is called Para Vairagya, Apara Vairagya, Apara or Samprajnata, which is explained in the 17th aphorism, that is not really Vairagya. That we have to remember. But a person has to, when you start practicing Vairagya, you have to pass through this stage. Why you cannot directly put yourself in the third stage, which we have discussed now. The Asamprajnata or the Para Vairagya, which is supraconscious, you cannot get into this directly. First you have to pass through the Samprajnata. When you started practicing, then for some time you remember that I am practicing Vairagya. You see, when I started to practice yoga, first in the starting, yoga means, yes, every day I do these exercises, I do these asanas and all these things. This is yoga in the beginning. But afterwards, when you entered study of Patanjali, then we realized that is also part of physical part of yoga, but yoga in the true sense is suspension of the behavior of the mind. So it is beyond the physical. So we have to work with senses and mind. So we got into this. So then how can it be suspended? By applying two implements, Abhyasa and Vairagya. So repetition of the effort, Abhyasa, and Vairagya is non-attachment. And now in Vairagya, we have to pass through the Samprajnata state. That means all conscious state in the beginning. Because in the beginning, I say now I have come to a level that now I know Vairagya. I know what is non-attachment. Every moment I am practicing non-attachment. You see, I am speaking to you, but I am non-attached. I am not attached with your qualities. You see, I have gone beyond the qualities, Guna Vaitrushnya, and I see the inner light in you. I remember the inner light in me. So I am every moment I am in Vairagya. Yes, it is good, but it is not real Vairagya. That is what he says. Because you are all the time you are conscious. But in the beginning, we have to pass through this stage. We cannot directly jump into the real Vairagya. It is not possible. Because we are on practice. For this also, Master has given wonderful example, which every one of us we know, we have experienced it. Also many times we have discuss this, but again we have to. What is it? You just remember the moments when you started to learn to drive the car. That is the example here. The very first day you remember in your life, every one of us, we wanted to learn to drive the car. Our aim is that we should be able to drive the car very wonderfully. Okay, but what happens on the first day? We enter into a driving school, and the instructor will be there on the besides us. He explains about the wheel, we have to catch. In the beginning we catch hold of the wheel very tight, so that car should not go this way and that way. We want to stay, and we don't turn our head also like this. We always see on the wheel and the road. And the first day, I don't know how all of you might have. You might have been but on the first day I was experiencing, I was looking at the road. When I was looking at the road, I could not look at the wheel. But when I am looking at the wheel, and then I could not, where is the gear? I have to look at the gear, because I have to change the gear. When I change the gear, I forgot to push the accelerator. So it is like a hell on the first day. What is this? How can we do all these things at a time? You see, we have only 2 legs. But we have 1 leg for brake, 1 leg for clutch. Of course, now there are automatic cars, but in the beginning, when we started, there are no automatic cars. So there is a clutch, there is a brake, there is an accelerator. So how can we handle? We have 2 legs only, but there are 3 things to handle. And we have 2 hands only. But these 2 hands we have to hold the driving wheel. And how can we should have another hand to handle the gear? So on the first day it is like a hell for us. How is it possible? If we look at these things, we will not look at the road. We can make an accident. So how is this? It is. So after 1 hour, what happens? We are very tired. Our body will be like, as if we made a very big journey afterwards. We need a big rest. Tired. If somebody asks why you are so tired, I was driving for 1 hour, therefore I am tired. But the instructor who is sitting with us, he laughs at us. While we are trying to drive, if somebody puts a question, he said, "Don't disturb me, I am driving the car." So suppose a friend of me who came to visit me, he was sitting in the car and he experienced a big hell, because the car stops every time. When I wanted to change the gear, then the engine stops. Again I have to start the engine. So all this hell. So this friend, after 2 years, he came once again, and I said, "Let us go out. I will take you to the seashore in my car." He says, No, please, no need. Let us go in a taxi. No, I have my car. But he remembers the worst experience he had with me, because he was behind when I started to learn driving. But now say, no, don't worry. So I convinced him, so he was with me, and he was a bit, he was, what will happen, this fellow, because he has experience. But now, I am not looking at anything. I am not looking at the road specially. I am not, just wonderful car is going on. So this fellow was very surprised. Oh, now I got mastery. Then what is the change? That time I was driving the car when I started to learn. Now I am not driving the car, but the car is going on driven by me. So I can I can discuss about Patanjali Yoga Sutras, I can discuss about everything. I am cognizant of so special cognizance is not there. Car is going on. So this is a change in our life. So in the same manner, in this also, in Vairagya also, the real Vairagya, the real non-attachment is that where everything which is going on through us, the work is being done through us. I am not doing anything. So this is what is called the ease of living. That is why Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yogaha karmasu kausalam. That means, yoga means the ease in doing your work. That is yoga. That is what Lord says in Bhagavad Gita. We do so many things, but many things can be done through us with ease, without any tension. There is no tension at all. So this is the example for real Vairagya. So, then how, when this change happens in our life, then how we will be attending to every work, what we have to do. But how will be our state of experience? In Bhagavad Gita it is also said, he gives his own example, the Lord. You see, myself, I am the creator, but I stand as if I am disinterested. Udasinavat asaktam. But all the creative work is done through him, through the Lord. But at the same time, he appears as if he is disinterested. So, that is how the change occurs in us also when we practice this type of real Vairagya. So therefore, the modern psychology cannot explain this third type of state. So it is supra-conscious state. This is a supra-conscious experience. So we are fully awake. Once again I drive your attention about our level of consciousness in how many levels of consciousness that we exist. We have discussed this previously also in previous classes, not in these classes. So there are 4 levels. One is the awakened state. So for all practical purposes, we are awake now. You and me and everybody, every one of us. Unless somebody is sleeping in his, that I don't know. Because I don't think anybody is sleeping, of course. So, for all practical purposes, we are awake. Awakened state. This is called Jagrat. Jagrat in Sanskrit means awakened. We are awakened because our eyes are open. And other state is just opposite state, Sushupti. Sushupti means completely closed down. That means sleep. What we call sleep is Sushupti. So, we know these two states, awakened state in which we are now, and Sushupti, which during the night or sometimes during daytime also maybe, or sometimes without knowing we slip into sleep. So that is the sleep state. Total absence. It is same like unconscious. Now we are conscious, we are awake, Jagrat. And the other is Sushupti, unconscious. Then there is another state, which is in another dimension, that is called Swapna. Swapna means dream state. This is also the modern psychology, always they try to explain, but not really they cannot explain properly, with due respects. Because dream is different from sleep state. This is where, if you ask psychologists, what is the difference between dream state and sleep state? Mostly we cannot differentiate these two, but there is a difference. How can we? Because we feel that we get dream when we are sleeping. But sometimes every one of us experience, we are not sleeping, we are trying to read something or doing something, but our mind goes somewhere else, as if we have been talking to somebody, as if we are sitting somewhere else with somebody. So our mind is not here, in different experience. So not only during sleep only, even sometimes even when we are awake also, then we get into this type of state, which we call dream state. How can you differentiate dream state with sleep state? Is it not difficult? No, if we know, it is not difficult. Just for example, any one of us, we know this. Sometimes we have slept maybe only for half an hour, for 30 minutes, and got up again. During these 30 minutes we got a dream. And in this dream, we got the dream as if we have spent with our friend together, living together with the friend for about some years, 3 years or 4 years. So it is 4 years of experience we got within 30 minutes. You can recollect your experiences, every one of us. No. We sleep for just a few minutes, 30 minutes or even less, but we made so much of journey. Suppose I slept for half an hour. In this half an hour, I got a dream that I got into flight and I have flown to Moscow or St. Petersburg, and there our friends came to pick me up from the airport, and then my sleep is gone. I opened my eyes. No, I am in my house only, in my own bed. So how much time? 30 minutes time only I was sleeping. I can look at the watch. Oh, I slept at the 30 minutes. But how much time it takes for me to travel from here to St. Petersburg? So in 30 minutes I got a dream of experience of at least more than a day. So this is a proof that dream is a different state, different from awakened state, from sleep state. So therefore, sushupti or sleep is a different state. There is a fourth state also explained. There is a fourth state. What is the name of the fourth state? The name of the fourth state is Turiya. Turiya means the fourth one. What is this? First one is Jagrat. Second one is Susupti. Third one is Swapna. So for these three you have given special names. But fourth one, it is Turiya means fourth one. Fourth one is fourth one only, no name. You couldn't find any names to give this state because in this state there are no names at all existing. This is the real state of our existence. So that is the real state of our consciousness, which is the background state, which is wrongly understood by modern psychology as subconscious state, but it is supraconscious state. It is not subconscious. So a real yogi who got perfect state of yogic state always stays in that state, Turiya, supraconscious state. Then how can he attend all his work? Yes, he works, he attends to every duty, every duty of his. But he is in that state only. How is it possible? Just what we call sleep, what does it mean? What we call sleep state, what does it mean? It means our senses and our mind are closed. During sleep, our body is existing and the apparatus is working, the laboratory we can call, because inhalation, exhalation, circulation of blood, digestion of food, nothing of these stops. If these stop, I will not be there. Only activity of senses and mind are suspended. That is what we call sleep. So we have to clearly understand this. What we call sleep is only a state of suspension of the activity of senses and mind, but not all the systems of the body. That will not stop. That should not stop. That they will stop only at the last stage of our life. When we leave the body, then only stop. And then the owner, or what we call the I am, that also in our sleeps. But our consciousness, when our consciousness rises to the consciousness of yogic consciousness, then we are always awake in that state, Turiya, fourth state. Every one of us, even before starting the practice of yoga also, sometimes suddenly we get into that state. For example, when we see some very beautiful things in nature, we get absorbed in that. Then what happens? All the other things will disappear from our cognizance. When we are listening to wonderful music. Then also, gradually all these things disappear and we are existing in that state. So when we have very interesting thing to taste or to see or to hear, then suddenly we go into that state and all the other things will disappear. So that is how from time to time we get into the experience of the fourth state, but we fall back immediately. That is what is happening for the people, for the persons who have not entered into yogic path. we fall back. But for a yogi, he never falls back. He will be in that state always. So he makes his senses and mind to work whenever it is required. Whenever it is not required, he can shut down his senses and mind and keeps himself awake. This is the experience of yogi who is always in the turiya state. So this real vairagya leads to that state, which is called real vairagya. So that leads to that state. So this is the difference of the state in which our consciousness is got involved. So when you enter the yogic path, gradually when you apply the abhyasa and vairagya, and in vairagya once again, first we pass through the stage of all conscious vairagya, which we studied in the 17th aphorism. We have studied all conscious vairagya, samprajnata. We pass through the state, which is not real vairagya. Then we get into the real vairagya, which is asamprajnata. So, which is also called para vairagya, para. That is what exactly in 16th aphorism first it was mentioned. Tat param, that is the highest form of non-attachment. Tat param purushakyate guna vaitushnyam. That one, about which we have studied, we have taken 2 or 3 classes for studying that para vairagya. The highest form of vairagya, para vairagya, where the aptitude for the qualities is dropped. Thirst for qualities is dropped. And only we have the Purusha Khyati, experience of the inner person of the Lord. And that is what we have studied in the 16th aphorism. So in the 17th aphorism we have studied about what is samprajnata vairagya or apara vairagya. Para is highest. Apara means the lower one. Which is the lower one? Samprajnata. That means all conscious state of vairagya is the lower one. Apara vairagya. Apara means lower, which is not para. Para is higher. Para means which is not higher, that means lower. So the para or the highest vairagya is asamprajnata. The apara or the lower vairagya is samprajnata, which is explained in the 17th aphorism. All conscious state of vairagya. So now, in the 18th aphorism, we are going to study aphorism 18. In this aphorism, what is being explained is Virama Pratyaya Abhyasa Purva Samskara Sesho Anyaha. Anyaha means another state. Another state is practiced when perceptions cease to exist and associations are left behind. Another state means other than samprajnata. That means he is explaining more about this asamprajnata only. That is what is called another state he is calling. That means after all consciousness, after the all conscious state described above means in the 17th aphorism, after it is attained, then there is the next step to practice. What he is explaining is, when we started to practice non-attachment or vairagya, invariably first we go through the all-conscious state. We cannot escape in the beginning. Samprajnata, which was explained in the 17th aphorism, the all-conscious state of vairagya, we pass through that. It takes maybe few years for us, if we are really constantly on practice of vairagya. Then for some time it will be this vairagya, false vairagya, in which we pass through. Samprajnata. So here, after all conscious state described above, so after practicing for some years and after experiencing this lower vairagya or samprajnata, all conscious, that means I am practicing vairagya, I am applying vairagya, I got vairagya in this. Here, suppose his friends are maybe they have placed a very tasty sweet food in a plate which he was liking for always, and now he says, no, I got non-attachment, so I have left this. I got non-attached, now I am not attached to this. Some years before I am very much attached to this. Now I have practiced vairagya. I got vairagya. So now even though you placed this before me, I am non-attached. The secret is, the doctor told him, if you eat even little, immediately you will die, because your sugar is so high in your blood. If you eat any more of this, because all the years you have been eating this, if you eat even little more of this, you will not survive anymore. Therefore, I said, then I will leave it. I got vairagya. Is it vairagya? all the people who are with me on the table were served with this same wonderful, very tasty sweet. I look at them, they are eating this, but I cannot eat because doctor said you will die. I got vairagya. No, I will not eat anymore. We pass through this invariably. It takes some years for us, at least if we are constant practice of abhyasa and vairagya. If we are really on constant practice every day, we are trying to, every moment we are trying to practice this yoga, and we want to practice vairagya. So in the beginning, for some time we have to pass through this samprajnata only. We cannot avoid. So therefore, in this aphorism, in 18th aphorism, he says, Anyaha means another one, another than this. Another state is practice. When the perceptions cease to exist and all the associations are left behind. So this is a state where no perceptions are existing. Everything drops off from his perception. but he exists to himself. Then how can such a man exist in the world? That is the question. When everything drops off from his perception, he exists only to himself, then how can he go out in the world? How can he work in the world? So he should. That means, does it mean that when he got real vairagya or paravairagya or asampragnata vairagya, does it mean that he should stay only in his house just like now because we are in lockdown? So does it mean that we will lock down ourselves for the whole life, cut off from the outer world? Is it true vairagya? If we should cut off from the outer world and lock down ourselves only to stay in my room, so I have no perception of outer world, is it vairagya? Is it yoga? So it is not the meaning of vairagya. So how can he exist? How such a man can exist in the world? Immediately this question arises in our mind. Because everything is dropped off from his perception and he exists to himself. Can he breathe? The answer is yes, he breathes, but he never breathes. What is this? Everything is very shocking. He breathes, but he never breathes. And breath occurs to him. He doesn't breathe. Breath occurs to him as it occurs in everyone. In fact, in every one of us, and even in those who are not practicing yoga, who doesn't know anything about yoga also, they are also breathing. Do they remember always that they are breathing? If you have to remember always that you have to breathing, you have to do breathing, if you have to remember always, then what happens? How long you can remember? After a few minutes you forget. And then if you could not breathe, if you forget, what happens? You will fall down and gone. So within a short time, all the beings on this earth will disappear, if that is true. So everybody is breathing. Otherwise, you cannot exist. But do they all the time remember that they are breathing? No. They do not remember always. Because we remember more important things than our breathing. So therefore, specially we have to practice pranayama. When we practice pranayama, we draw our attention towards our breathing, inhalation, exhalation. Because very rarely our attention is drawn towards breathing. But this fellow who got into real vairagya, if everything is gone from his cognizance, does he breathe? Yes, he doesn't breathe. But breath occurs to him, just like others, every one of us. Then in what way he is different from other persons? Does he eat when he is a yogi? Some people think that when he becomes a yogi, he need not eat anything, he need not drink anything. This is not correct. There are some strange people who want to show other people that they are not eating, they are not drinking. But what? Nature has kept everything for us. When we are hungry, we have to eat. When we are thirsty, we have to drink. This is the law of nature. If I say that I will not eat, I will not drink, but still I will show that I can live even without eating and drinking. So that if I say this is yoga, that is not yoga. That may be different yoga, but not in its true sense, as explained by Patanjali or in the Bhagavad Gita. Lord never said that you have to starve in the name of yoga. Starvation is not yoga. Clearly, very clearly, Lord explained in Bhagavad Gita. So, does he eat? Who has got vairagya, does he eat? Answer is, he does not eat. His tongue eats. The parts of the body continue their work. His stomach digests according to the previous habit. And previous habit was left him like a seed in him. He never feels the taste of anything, though his tongue and mind rejoice the taste under his mastery. He allows his mind to enjoy the taste, but he never tastes anything. In fact, just let us think, every day when we are eating some very tasty thing, I say, oh yes, it is very tasty. To whom? Who is tasting it? Is the taste there in the tongue? No. Is the taste existing in that some special thing which is prepared? Honey is sweet. Honey is sweet to itself. How can you say honey is sweet to itself? If honey is sweet to itself, you cannot have any honey anymore for yourself. And honey is sweet to you when you are tasting it. But then you are tasting the honey using your tongue. So the tongue, is it sweet to the tongue? No. Tongue cannot feel. It is the mind who is feeling. So, who is enjoying the taste or who is enjoying the smell? It is the mind. So, this fellow who is stabilized in this real experience of vairagya, for him, he never feels any taste of anything, though his tongue and mind, they taste under his mastery, his control. He allows his mind to taste, to experience the taste using the tongue. So, senses and mind. Does he maintain any family? That is another question. Because he is a yogi, he got stabilized in yogic experience. He has any family? Because he has no attachment. He has any family? No. His family is maintained by him. He does not maintain any family. His family is maintained by him. What does it mean? Because when he became yogi, then he has already got practiced non-attachment, vairagya, no attachment. Then how can he be with the family without attachment? That will be mystery for a non-yogic fellow. You can live, you need not leave the house, you need not leave them away. You can be with them. You can enjoy with your children, you can enjoy with your wife, everything. But the family is maintained by him. So, his mind is allowed to enjoy, but under his mastery. Mind cannot act as a master anymore. Mind and senses will obey him. Before we started the practice yoga, we have to obey the senses and mind. But now change is, mind and senses have to obey him. Does he work in the office? Suppose you are working in an office and you have good remuneration, and suddenly you felt that I became a yogi, I got non-attachment, so I need not work anymore, stopped working in the office. Then what happens? No remuneration to you because they cannot give you any remuneration because you stopped to work. Then what happens? How can you live? You are hungry, you need food. So I ask my wife, please give me some food. She says, there is no more food at home because no more money is there. You stopped to work, you have no remuneration, we have no money, I have nothing to prepare food for you. But I got vairagya, yes, live like that. So, that is not the meaning. You live. Even after got vairagya, you are there with the family, you are there in the office working. Then what is the difference? How can I understand the difference? Very simple. When I am walking, along with my friend. I got out for a walk with my friend. Suppose Peter came to me and both of us were walking and talking while walking also. So when we are talking to each other, who is walking then? Our legs are walking. Our legs are walking while we are talking. Is it possible or not? So if that is possible, then it is also possible that I can continue my work at the office, but I am not attached. So I have practiced and got into non-attachment, experience of non-attachment. But even then, the work is not normally going on. Work at home, work at the office, work with wife and children, work with colleagues, with everything is. It doesn't mean that after I got non-attachment, I shut myself down away from the outer world. No, not shutting down. Just this is the example. Our legs are walking, and we are talking about yoga or about something to each other. So if we have to talk, we need not stop walking and stand somewhere else for hours and hours and keep talking. No need. You can walk and keep talking whatever you want, yoga or something. Then it will be very good exercise for your legs. Otherwise, if I sit always like this, luckily I have not kept any air conditioner. I have opened my doors. So if I sit in a air-conditioned room and sit on my chair for many hours, many days without moving, and all the time discussing about yoga, that is not real yoga. So therefore, a person who got stabilized in real non-attachment, how he can be? He will be normal attending to any other work like before, but he is not attached. That is the difference. Work is being done through him. No more he is doing the work. We have to understand this difference. A yogi who got stabilized in non-attachment, real vairagya, the work is being done through him. He is not doing any work. It makes all the difference. So the two states described in these two aphorisms, what are the two states? One is sampragnata, that means all conscious, and the second one is, the first one is asampragnata or real vairagya, and second one is sampragnata. So sampragnata is a all conscious state of a yogi. Asampragnata is the all subject to existence. This is real. This is where we have to understand. It is subject to existence, all subject to existence. All subject to existence in the objective world. Now it will be clear. We are in the objective world. By practicing vairagya, real vairagya, so it is all subject to experience in the objective world. All subject to experience in the objective world. This we have to very clearly remember. We cannot run away from the objective world, because it is the mind which is involved or which is attached to the objective world through the senses. If you want to run away from the objective world, you can run away from another person or from the environment, but you cannot run away from your own mind, because it is your own mind which is attached to the outer world. Who is involved in the outer world is your own mind. So where can you run away from your mind? So it is not possible. So therefore, asampragnata, that means supra-conscious. It is neither conscious nor unconscious, but supra-conscious. So asampragnata is supra-conscious state of, or the real state of vairagya is all subjective experience in the objective world. This we should always remember. We are in the objective world, but it is possible that we can get stabilized in all subjective experience. That is what is meant in the previous aphorisms. Purushakhyate gunavaitrushnyam. Purushakhyate, that means we are always in the experience of the Lord consciousness, the indweller in every person, and completely away from the thirst for the qualities or the gunas of the person. So this is the real goal of us. That is itself its vairagya. So therefore we are in the objective world, but we should practice to be in the subjective existence. In the first state, things and people exist to him according to the right measure. So that is samprajñāta. In the samprajñāta type of vairagya, in the first state, all the people, in the first state, all the things and all the people exist to him in to the right measure. That is why we apply right measure to all the things and all the people. In the second state, which is asamprajñāta, they do not exist to him. All the things and all the people which are around in the outer world, they do not exist to him. Then what is it they exist? Their seeds exist in him. The seeds. Then there is only the action in this world to the all conscious existence. Only action, what is to be done. There is no reaction from him because he is existing in subjective state. All subjective state. When he is existing in all subjective state, his mind and senses, they are working only according to his order, to his will, to his instruction. They cannot work by themselves. Therefore, there is no reaction from him. No action has its motive outside. So that is the state of a yogi. He has only action in this world. There is no reaction from him, and any action has no motive in the outside. No motive outside. The second state, to the second state there is only existence. Action exists to the body, senses and mind. So action exists only to the body, because body is the instrument to get into any action. And it needs senses and mind to direct the body. So action exists only to the body, senses and mind. For him, action does not exist. that is what is called inaction. So, virama, in this aphorism, virama means stoppage. Virama means stoppage of perception. Abhyasa purva means preceded by repetition from the associations, past associations. Samskara means association. Purva samskara means past association. So that is what is explained here about the second type of vairagya. Asampragnata vairagya. So another state is practiced when the perceptions cease to exist. Virama means they cease to exist, they stop. That means when we transact with the other person, any person, it may be in your family with your wife or children, or outside your friends or colleagues, with any person, when we transact, then our perception about the motives connected to those persons will stop. So the motives and also what is good or what is bad about the other person, that means his gunas, his qualities. And so all these things, his qualities, his good and bad, the motives, all these things will stop. So what does it stop? It stops about his qualities. So we deal with all the persons, but no more with any motive and no more with basing on the qualities of the other person. So what is called guna vaitushniya in the 16th aphorism, so that is once again explained as stopping. Virama means stopping. Suppose we need any object. Suppose I need to purchase a mobile. Okay, then if I project my mind how much expensive it is, so if it is more expensive, then it is very good quality. So I think of quality. So this will not be there. Only utility. If it is needed, if I have to use this, if it is to be utilized, only that, but nothing about the quality. So what is it that I gain by using this? All these things will not exist. So this transformation will happen when we practice and get into the asampragnata, real type of non-attachment or vairagya. So we have to study this more with more familiar examples to know about what is explained in this aphorism. Because without without taking the examples which are quite familiar to us from our daily life, we cannot really understand what is being given by Patanjali in the aphorism. We may know the term, but what does it exactly mean? How can we apply to ourselves? We have to apply to our life. For that, we have to take these examples from our daily life. So therefore, we will study. It is not discussion, of course. We have to study more and apply. How can we apply what is given in this aphorism? That we will continue in our next class, next week. So thank you all very much for your very wonderful presence, and our interaction in studying this very valuable subject. Thank you very much. Vasudeva.